Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Nick Provenzano, Makerspace Director, coming to us from Michigan. Much like the rest of us, Nick has been working from home and being very creative and also making a lot of resources public. Nick, welcome as one of our featured speakers. I'm so excited to have you here, and we're ready to set off on a fantastic conversation about the work that you do and the times that we are in and how we as teachers and educators can support our students and each other.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be able to connect with teachers all across your state and really all across the country from people that are tuning in to participate. So I'm really excited to share the ups and the downs that I've experienced and teachers I've worked with have experienced to really remake education as we know it on the fly.
And what an opportunity we have right now. I see some folks making decisions from this place of fear, and that concerns me because I see things getting shut down or just regular packets getting sent home. But for the leaders and the teachers that I see making decisions based out of the what if and what is possible and the creativity and meeting students where they're at on their learning journey, there's some real magic happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very lucky to be at a school. I'm at University Liggett School, which is in Grosse Pointe Woods, Michigan. And our head of school emailed us at this point almost a month ago and said, just in case, let's put together a plan if school has to like shut down for a little while. It was one of those, it's one in a million, but let's just be prepared just in case. And as makerspace director, I'm also like the tech coordinator for the middle school. We got together and put stuff together, and the next thing you know, I'm at my state conference. It gets canceled halfway through, and I call my boss. I'm like, should I come back to school? They're like, yeah, we're canceling school tomorrow, so don't bother. And boom, we spent 2 weeks that was supposed to be spring break putting everything together, and we hit the ground running this past Tuesday, rolling out, and teachers were prepared and kids were engaged. And yeah, instead of looking at this as a oh no, we look at this, wow, what opportunities do I have to engage my kids in different ways now?
That's fantastic. And in a sense, we always say we don't have enough time. I don't have enough prep time. I don't have enough time for this. But right now, we really do, in a sad way, have the gift of time to plan and collaborate and create something extraordinary for our students. So tell us about some of the things that you all are doing.
Yeah, I will say that probably the first most important thing that our head of school talked about, and as a group we agreed on, was that right now it's not about grades.
Hmm.
Right now it's not about homework. It's not about busy work. It's about the wellness of our students.
First and
And
foremost.
the first day was just, we were told, just check in, see how they're doing.
Hmm.
We have students that are being impacted by COVID-19. We have students that have family members that have gotten sick and some have passed away. Like, this is a reality. So the fact, you know, that we need to approach it from a wellness standpoint, mental wellness and physical wellness is key, because essentially kids are not going to learn if they don't feel that they're being loved and embraced and
Hmm.
accepted. And to be honest with the kids, to say, yep, this is terrible. Yep, this situation is not what we wanted, and we miss you. Because pretending like everything is normal and that this is class just through a computer is how you get kids disengaged. Because, especially the middle school, kids can sniff out the BS. If you're sitting there putting on a fake mask for the kid, they're going to see that and go, well, Provenzano's lying, so what do I care? He obviously doesn't care about how I really feel. So that was first and foremost. And from the tone of meeting with the kids, I met with the entire sixth grade all at once, which, woof, boy, anyone that teaches middle school trying to get an entire sixth grade class on Zoom is like herding kittens digitally.
Okay,
So,
that's impressive.
right?
I like herding kittens digitally.
Yeah. But the kids were there and they were ready to go. And, I helped them fix some of the minor tech stuff, but, they were excited to be around people digitally. And it's about leaning into that.
Hmm.
So some of the cool things that, are going on. Some of the things that teachers were doing in terms of Cahoots or Gimkits and things like that work completely the same way digitally if you're doing distance learning. So I jumped into a Spanish classroom, and they were all in the Zoom, and they were speaking Spanish, and they were doing a Kahoot at the same time, and they were still able to engage and go back and forth. It was amazing. Social studies class, kids were choosing books that they're going to read, historical books over the next month, and see how that relates to what's going on. So we're lucky that we've been given the opportunity to veer from our set curriculum
Mm-hmm.
and choose a remote learning curriculum now. One of the things that I have was that my class that I teach, I created was an innovation and design class. The purpose of this class was to talk about design thinking and give our students problem solving skills, sort of like the big thing we wanted to focus on. Well, that class ran out of our makerspace, and I've got 3D printers, I've got CNC machines, I've got laser cutters. And so my lessons were designed around kids having an opportunity to use those tools. That's not happening now. So I needed to reinvent my class that was brand new this year.
Wow, on the fly.
Yes. And it's becoming what I would hope was going to become a level 2 class for next year, which is giving kids the opportunity to choose the projects they want without any sort of like input from me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want to do? Because essentially now every single home is a makerspace.
Right.
And that's something that I've been trying to share with teachers and parents, is that, your home is a makerspace now. You have things, whether it's Legos, whether it's pieces of scrap wood that, you're having from a leftover project. Maybe now's the time to teach your son or daughter how to nail things together, or hammer things together, build mini stools or benches and things like that. So my assignment for the kids was to explore what you want to make. I said, I would like you to at least create 5 projects over the next 2 months, and at least one of them has to be digital and one of them has to be physical.
Very
So
nice.
that was our first assignment. And we connected today, and they came up with 10 possible projects. And I gave the kids the website instructables.com, which, for people out there, if you don't know, instructables.com is the ultimate DIY hub for everything. It is not just
Ooh.
technology, it's not just crafting. They have baking, they have landscape. I mean, if you want to know how to make something, you can go to instructables.com, type in, I want to make, and it goes blank, and it has the blank you fill in. And you just type in the word, and all of these step by step directions created by people are there. And it's perfect for students who want to explore making things.
And here's what's so interesting. A lot of times we talk about teaching the standards and, we don't get super excited about hearing that. But the reality is that when we dive into a resource like Instructables and these do it yourself projects, all those standards are embedded in that exactly, but they're embedded in a way that is enticing. So if I, as a student or as an adult, because now I'm already thinking of the project in the backyard, right, you have to be able to read the directions, follow those instructions,
Hmm.
right? Have the product at the end of that, and then perhaps present to a class and be able to speak to it. It's all built in right there.
Yeah, and it's amazing. So these are sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. So you give them a task, like, okay, on your own, come up with 10 projects that you want to do. I mean, it's either going to be, kids are like, whatever, I don't need to do this, or it's going to be, okay, here's my opportunity. And I was nervous because the other part of my class that was true when it was in person was that there are no grades and that there's no homework. So I already lived in that world. So the kids felt even more comfortable, like moving
Mm-hmm.
that way now. And some of the projects kids suggested. So I have a kid who's like, well, I want to build a treehouse. I've always wanted to build a treehouse, and now I'm stuck at home, and I think it's time to build the treehouse. And I was like, yes, like that's exactly what I want. He goes, my dad's home, so why not build a treehouse?
Okay,
Like,
that's cool.
that's amazing. A young lady, she said, my parents wanted to throw out our old like play set in the backyard, but I thought, what if I just refurbished it and then maybe we could donate it somewhere? And I was like, ah,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
that's amazing. Another young lady, she's like, I've always wanted to try digital art, so I'm going to try to do a digital landscape of my backyard. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. And another boy wants to make a 3-course meal for his family for dinner, and all of these different projects. And I was just so excited because the kids really leaned into, okay, I can't fail. There are no grades. What do I want to do? And, I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to make it happen. And a thing that's out there that's really popular right now because almost every kid said it was something called hydro dipping. Does anybody, what hydro dipping is?
I do not know what hydro dipping
So,
is. Tell me more.
from what I understand, I could be
Should
way
I be
off.
nervous? Like,
I know, and this is again, this is only because I had class like 15 minutes before we started this. Um, it's like you take like a shoe or something that's like blank or white, and you have this. I believe it's water that's got color like in it, like some like an oil-based color, and so
okay.
when you dip it into it, the color comes out and it's like stains on the so like sort of like a tie-dye type of look,
Okay.
but it's oil from what I understand. So the way that the pattern you create on top of the water, and when you dip it in, it stays on the thing that you dip. So it's
Ooh.
apparently very popular on TikTok right now. So that's what all the kids are saying.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's another just another crafting thing. I mean, which is so funny because the kids are talking about it like it's this revolutionary new crazy thing, and it's just crafting. It's another crafting thing that kids are getting excited about.
New
So
to them.
yeah, new to them, and it's something that they do for shoes in like fancy designers and stuff like that. Like do this type of thing apparently, but it's
Okay.
apparently easy to do at home with the right tools.
Hmm.
I just have this feeling like kids are gonna have all these like permanently stained sinks or something because they don't follow the directions.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the parents out there that are like, you're doing what with what color?
Yeah. But another kid was like, I want to remodel a car. My dad used to be an auto mechanic, and I thought it'd be cool to go in the
Oh, wow.
garage. And so another part of this that I think is so important and valuable, if it's possible, is to get kids working with their parents.
Hmm.
Like, what an opportunity for them to do projects together. Maybe in social studies, you're exploring family trees, or you're exploring the oral history of your family. Like, mom, I never knew grandma. Like, what was it? Like, what was she like? Like, where did she come from? Like, now's the time to sort of like jot those stories down to preserve a lot of that history. And right now we're living in history. One of the things that historians have been asking people is to start diaries, because
Mm.
those are the things that are going to be used 20 years from now when we start to create this history of what was life like for a person in Los Angeles, Detroit, Chicago versus someone in the rural communities outside in Kansas or Idaho and things like that. Those are important stories because those stories will influence the next time we need to prepare for things. That's the whole point of history, right? Is to learn from it. And, while it's easy just to sit and watch Netflix every single day, trust me, I'm there. I'm down with it with everyone else. We also need to start crafting what that story is. And each one of us have a very important story that we need to share. And one of the things as teachers we need to do is show kids how they can tell that story. And while it's fun to tell stories through TikTok, it's also important to teach these kids how there's so much value in that first person narrative. Who you are when you start this journey, is not going to be the same person you are when this, part of our journey ends. And so having kids write a diary, something that's informal, ungraded, it's not going to be tested for all the people out there that are worried about that. We want kids to love writing because it's important. And these are the type of things 100 years from now, like those letters are going to talk about an era that 100 years from now, people are looking and go, whoa, like what? Like they had TVs, like internet was a problem. Like, huh? Like that was like, they had to get video conferencing that wasn't standard in every house. Like, these are things, they're stories that we need to share. And so if we're going to remake education, we need to remake it with the next 100 years looking ahead, as opposed to modeling it after the 100 years before or the 100 years before that.
Absolutely. There are a couple of quotes that come to mind as you're talking, and a thought that I have also about our, I say, we've called them at risk, but now we take a look at, at opportunity. Those kids that
Hmm.
that we can capture some different opportunities with, but there's the quote that if we teach our students the way we learned yesterday, we rob them of their tomorrow. And
Mhm.
if failure were not an option, what would you do? Because right now, failure is not an option, right? Anything we do, we're doing the best that we can. And so we have this opportunity to take great risks and see what happens. And I think of our students who maybe don't have mom or dad at home or don't have that support network where they can't go out and, build a car in the garage with dad, and maybe don't have a family tree to be able to
Yep.
get access to those resources. But to have that alternate activity, which is an equitable activity of writing from that first person, what is this like from your point of view right now?
Mhm.
But knowing also that there are some supports that we might need to be aware of putting into place as we hear their stories, because there's a lot of hurt that's happening with our children. And so how do we tap into those resources of our counselors and support services to make sure that we are really taking care of that child who no longer is coming to school and connecting in person with that one adult? That might be their teacher, might be somebody in the cafeteria or the custodian that they check
Yeah.
in with every day, but really connecting through those kiddos, through their writing and the stories that they tell, so we know who was your person. We have a lot of teachers connecting, but I know from my time in school that a lot of our kids really connected with the folks we had working in the cafeteria, and are we engaging them also in these digital relationships so that the kids see them every day and continue to have that relationship and that safety?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I started to think about when this all started to sort of happen um, was the students in a couple of ways. So, one of the things that I always tell people to consider are the introverts that are in your classroom. Stop forcing them to be extroverts because they're not, and you're
Mm-hmm.
causing a level of anxiety that you don't even realize. Like when I understood what cold calling was doing to students, I immediately stopped the practice because I was that kid. You sometimes have to remember who you were and use that in how it informs you in your instructional practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I it's crazy. I tell people I'm an introvert and they don't believe it because I speak and I do keynotes and I do all like these things and I go, yeah, but that's a performance. Like I'm not, on the spot one on one with you, where it's just totally anxiety inducing. Like small conversations with group of people I don't know everyone just makes me freak out. I'm not comfortable. But I've done theater. I can get on stage because I can convince myself that this is all a show. Like this isn't real. I'm not talking to 3,000 people. I'm talking to one person, and that's the person I found in the crowd, and that's who I'm going to talk to. And like that's it. So for our students, those introverts, forcing them to raise your hand and participate and count points for participation and stuff like that is like terrible. They're still figuring out who they are. Now we are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Now we have all of these extroverts that are now being forced into isolation,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to think about those kids. The introverts are like, awesome, oh my god, this is great.
I've been waiting for this.
Yes. I'm in my house. I can turn mute on and off if I want. I can just get up and go to the bathroom without people staring at me and making a big deal out of it. Oh, like this is the introvert heaven. This is like me. Like, oh my goodness. I'm like, okay, I can do this and this is great. But now those extroverts are like the kids that needed that contact with their peers
Mm-hmm.
because one, let's say home life isn't awesome. Let's just remember the reality of the fact that school for some kids is their only safe place.
Yes.
And now they're home, and they're home with parents that are dealing with their own anxieties, their own struggles. And right now, I mean, we need to embrace for potentially over a third of the country being unemployed. I
Yeah.
mean, they're talking about huge impacts economically. And guess what? That impacts kids. It's easy to look at graphs and look at numbers and be all sciency and mathy about it, but those numbers are people. Like, that unemployment rate impacts kids who no longer able to live where they are and might have to move districts to go to a new school because they can't afford to live there anymore. They have to leave apartments. Like these are real things. And so when I see people tweeting things about what's the best way to give a multiple choice test during online learning, it drives me insane. Like I tweeted a general sort of response to everyone: if you're worried about tests right now, you're doing online learning wrong. Like it's just that
Amen.
is not where we need to be. If
Mm-hmm.
you're like, how many worksheets is too many for a day? One is too many. One is too many worksheets. Check in with your kids, be engaged, say, go explore your backyard and find an animal you've never seen before. Go and explore a patch of your tree and see if there's any cool birds or nests or anything. Like have kids go out, have kids explore, have them build digitally, build the coolest thing in Minecraft, Fortnite, whatever it is you want to build in, and explore, because we need these kids to find ways to engage at home that maybe separates them from the anxiety inducing stuff going on down the hall in the living room or whatever. Because it's easy as teachers to put on our blinders and go, I got to deal with the faces. Like right now I'm looking at you on a screen and you're just a screen, you're a two-dimensional like image, and that's right, that's your whole world. I can decide that you are that.
Right.
That is a serious mistake for teachers to do, because we still need to find ways to connect to those kids. The after class conversation, and you can't do the tap on the shoulder anymore just to be like, hey, it's okay, or things like that. So you need to email, you need to find ways to utilize, whether it's social media, whether it's making crazy funny silly YouTube videos and sharing that with your kids. You have to engage in these ways because they desperately need these interactions. And if they don't have them, I'm worried about their mental health. And I mean, just to be honest, our mental health system in this country is terrible. It
Mm-hmm.
is. And so we are potentially creating this surge of mental health issues without support. And again, how many schools don't have mental health counselors, right? They've cut those. All of those support systems that have been cut across the country in school districts. Now it's one of those, man, I wish we had someone that could talk to kids about their feelings digitally. Yeah, that would be nice,
That'd be
wouldn't
great,
it?
wouldn't it? Yeah.
So we're seeing all of these things slowly fall into place, right? These terrible consequences to actions that we go, oh, it's not a big deal. Like they can just talk to their teacher because, right, I'm a certified mental health expert. Of course, I can deal with all of the things, but we're going to have to. And talking to parents and getting them on board with saying, hey, here are tons of resources for supporting your kids who are dealing with anxiety, that are dealing with fears,
Mm-hmm.
because regular I'll say this. Some students don't like the idea of being like 2 minutes late for class,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have anxiety over like little things or things in a wrong folder, and they have to go to their locker and it's embarrassing and they're freaking out. Like now we're being told, at least in Michigan, another 70 days of emergency declared, which again takes us through the end of May. There you go. I mean, if you get anxious over the little things, imagine being told, okay, stay at home for 70 more days. Like that number alone is a scary number, like 70. So we need to find those ways to support those kids. I'm lucky I'm at a school that we've built in all of these things, all of these checkpoints. So we have these teachers and we have the support network for our, as you like to say, at opportunity students, which I like. I'm going to be stealing and using that for sure. um, but we have kids that learn in so many different ways and respond emotionally in so many different ways. um, we have failed as a society if we don't look out for those students during this time of crisis.
So important. I think, same with our teachers, right, who could be suffering at home as well, and, with these pressures and missing their students. And, um, as we talk about the kiddos that have the anxieties and the parents that have the anxieties, and I'm mindful of, taking a look at the data we're seeing on the increased consumerism of alcoholic beverages, right? There are some things where we're seeing like, oh my gosh, these businesses are going under, but, alcohol is on the rise for sure. But for elementary classrooms, it's one teacher, and
Hmm.
there's a relationship. But when we get into our middle school and high school grades, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 7 teachers potentially, and coaches that are reaching out, and that gets overwhelming for students and for their families as
Hmm.
well. And so finding that point of contact and that back end continuity of who's point person on connecting with this family, so that we don't inadvertently put a lot of pressure on them to connect with 7 to 10 people, on a daily or weekly basis, but allow them to just have that structured time of check-in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do an advisory system so at our
Mm-hmm.
school. So think of it like a homeroom. It's all called something a little bit differently around the country, but we call ours advisory. And I have 8 eighth graders. I'm an eighth grade advisor, and so those are my kids. And I got to check in with all of them today. It was a 20-minute meeting. And hey, how you doing? How's this working? I was like, give feedback. Like, are your classes okay? Like, how are your teachers doing? Like, this is anonymous feedback. Like, are we talking too long? Are we not talking enough? Like, what's going on? And we've built that relationship, luckily up until this point where the kids could be honest and say, yeah, Provenzano, this class, awesome. Yes, like they are doing it. I go, this class, I still think they're figuring it out. And they sort of accepted that, like, yep, there's going to be some growing pains with this, but I'm the touch point with parents. I'm the touch point with them. So any of that communication is to prevent parents from feeling overwhelmed from 7 emails from a teacher. We also do block scheduling, so the
Mm-hmm.
kids are only getting 4 classes a day too. So that's sort of the other nice chunk of it, is that they're not doing a full schedule every day. They only have their 4 classes. They can go to them. And one of the sort of things that is an expectation for teachers is that we are not using the entire 70-minute block for instruction.
Thank goodness. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we're just like, that's awful.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were in the classroom, we didn't want you. We were explicitly telling you not to talk for 17 minutes. That definitely applies online too. This, as I told the kids, like the first couple of days will probably be a lot of teachers talking because we're setting up expectations. Like we're trying to figure out what this looks like. But I go, yeah, you'll hit around a 20 to 25-minute mark of instruction, and the rest will be go work on it. I'll stay in the Zoom. And then if you want to jump back in and ask questions, I'll be here. And for people that need extra support, you get it. And for those who don't, bam. So a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning is important. And to have an advisory that allows me to reach out to those kids and get information. And I've emailed parents and said, hey, how's it going? Like even before school started, I spent my spring break,
Mm-hmm.
big air quotes,
Right.
meeting almost every single day with administrators and teachers and saying, okay, we need to be ready for all of these problems. And as the tech guy, it was even this extra burden and like anxiety of like, okay, the middle school sort of like is my problem right now. I need to get every single middle school student ready to go. I mean, I've got 6th graders that need help tying their like shoelaces still, and I'm like asking them to engage in a full online community remote learning system.
A little bit of a
But
lift. A
but
little bit of a
but
lift.
when I was able to get every single one of them on Monday in and asking questions and their computer working and the video working, I was like, I don't even care what happens the rest of the year. Like that's it. Like that was the hurdle. Like that was the hurdle uh, for all of them because you're right. I mean that ability to connect and see everything else is really up to them at that point, right? How much they want to engage, how much they're going to take out of these things. Um, is huge. And to go back to what you said about the teachers and the anxiety they're feeling is, oh, again, as someone that deals with anxiety, that deals with that regularly, you know, it is so important that as teachers, you find ways to one, um, make me time, you time, right? Like make time
Mm-hmm.
for you, whatever that is. If it is, 30 minutes on the treadmill with your earbuds while your spouse or someone else watches the kids, take it. Is it yoga? Is it stretching? Is it that morning cup of coffee just in silence? Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, you need to find it. Like you just have to. I just saw like a friend the other day
And hold it
who,
sacred.
yeah,
Right. Hold
very
it sacred.
sacred. He is missing the 10-minute drive to and from work.
Mm-hmm.
That he's like, that 10-minute drive was my transition from work mode to home mode. And now it's work mode, home mode. Like there's no break in between. And you don't think about that. Like, wow. Yeah, like for me, I have like a 45-minute drive sometimes longer if traffic's really bad.
Hmm.
Like, that's 1/24th of my day sometimes where I have all this time to decompress, to think about, to reflect on my practices. What did I do? And this, yell at the driver next to me, not paying attention, all of that stuff. And I can get out. But now it is like this. Like, I'm done with this, and then bam, parenting. Like, boom, kids right next door. Like, I gotta go do my thing. So teachers, you need to find that time to decompress, like after instructing, whatever your day sort of looks like. I also encourage you to engage online with your peers, with the teachers in your school, the teachers in your district. We've got people that are doing online poker nights. We've got people. I have various groups. I'm doing essentially Cards Against Humanity digitally
Uh-huh.
with people. If you're a friend, if you're a fan of that game, it's called Evil Apples, and it's an app you can download, and it's free.
Uh-huh.
And you can play that with groups of people if you want. If that's the way you want to like connect and be fun and be silly, go for it. I have so many invites to book clubs and to things like that because you need to find ways to engage with your peers because we have to find ways to laugh. We have to find ways to engage. And is someone, again, like an introvert, but misses those interactions with students? Ways to engage and do certain things are so important. So having fun connecting online, I think it's good to touch base. Have a drink, have a milkshake, whatever works for you, but connect with those peers and share those stories, share the victories, share the weird things. Like, when I had kids talk about possible projects, two separate kids talked about creating some type of flamethrower. I am not kidding you. Flamethrowers. And I just said, what? And then I go, yeah, like, it'd be like a flamethrower and it would like disinfect things before you touch it. So, like, you would kill germs. And I'm like, I tell you what, if you get your parents' permission to make a personal flamethrower to disinfect things, I'm like, more power to you. If you can convince mom and dad of that, like, go for it. But I also had a kid who said they want to make a coat for their cat. Like, that's what they
Oh.
want to make. I go, well, is this a hairless cat? No. I'll go, why does it need a coat? I just think he'll look so cool in a coat. I'm like, okay. I'm
I'm,
like,
I'm
make
liking the flamethrower kids though.
separate kids on separate like Zoom things. I'm like, did you talk to so and so? No, I'm like, why? Because they want to do the same thing. What videos are you guys watching that
Or
I
what
need to be
show?
aware, right? But it's the creativity is going to come out for these kids, and that's great. But to be able to share those stories, where it's just kids being silly. At one point, a kid was doing like he was doing costume changes during the block. He would like get up, walk into his closet, and then come out in a completely different outfit, and like sit down and act like nothing was happening.
Oh, that
Like at
is
one point,
awesome.
he was like in a full suit at one point, and then he was like in like a tank top at another point, and he just was like people were like, "What are you doing?" And you're just like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, what? Like, our kids are hilarious too, and I think it's also important for teachers that are engaged in remote learning to let kids be funny, to let them be silly, to let them wear a fake mustache during the entire session, because this is their creative outlet to deal with their anxiety. And man, if I could, I told the kids, like, if I gave extra credit points, if I gave grades, you would have gotten so many, because that is like the funniest thing I've ever seen in remote learning.
Right,
And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I go, okay.
That's a new class clown. Hey, so my son is in college, and they're getting ready to go back from spring break, and they're watching the kids that already went back, and they're in these Zoom sessions. And so what the kids are doing, and I think for all you college professors out there, right, is they're taking screenshots of them looking like they're paying attention, and then
Yes.
loading that right as their background. I was like, man, that's pretty funny.
It is spot on. It's spot on. You can't go wrong with that.
And I thought,
It's
if you're
like,
going to hold a 45, 60-minute lecture, well,
yeah.
that's kind of what you're going to get. 'Cause-
Well, I mean, I had a kid raise his hand physically, wave at me, and I said yes. I unmuted him. And he goes, "Can I go to the bathroom?" I was just like,
Like,
okay, this is a great question I never thought of. Guys, get up and go. You're in your own house. I have literally no ability to stop you from going to the bathroom. I go, I appreciate what you think is a very polite gesture, but if you need to go, just put BRB into the chat, go to the bathroom, come back. I don't need to know what you're doing. I can be like, I don't know, they're thirsty. I don't know. Mom said, come here for a second. I go, just get up and go.
yeah,
I'm like, that was sort of even my policy in the classroom. I'm like, dude, just say, hey, can I go outside for a minute? I'm like, go ahead. Like, I don't need to know what you're doing. Like, go and do what you got to do and come back to class. But again, kids need to get used to, right, that what's this new normal and being trusted to leave your computer to go to the bathroom or to get a drink of water, and for a teacher not to freak out. I mean, I hope no one's
yeah.
freaking out on kids, but yeah, go turn off your camera, hit mute, and go do your thing. And if you're wearing your earbuds, please make sure you're on mute. I don't need to hear anything in the bathroom.
Right, don't take your
For
device
those,
with you.
right? It remembers that scene from not Lethal Weapon, The Naked Gun, with Leslie Nielsen, where he's wearing a microphone and he goes to the bathroom. Like that's, I'm waiting for things like that to happen. It's inevitable. It's like gonna happen, and if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be a sixth grader. I mean, it's good. It's like one of those things that's just gonna happen. It's why I keep all my students on mute all the time unless I need them to talk. It's
Just in
to avoid
case.
those type of things. But no, it's helping kids get adjusted to the new normal. And I think as teachers, if you have an online presence, if you're on Twitter and Instagram, if you're on any of those places, it's important to share those best practices. I wrote a blog post recently that sort of went over sort of like my 4 expectations as to what I am looking for on the first day of learning
Hmm.
for my students. And what I think is important to remember is that one of the things that you want to do is if you're planning work, think about whatever it is and then cut it in half and cut it in half again. And if you feel like it's busy work, it probably is, get rid of it. Like that's like just number one.
Great
Um,
advice.
I also want people, my list was, think of wellness. Second is engagement over busy. Third is feedback equals assessment. And
Hmm.
the 4 is compassion, and the fifth one was have fun. Like this is a time to have fun, be silly, be crazy, but have compassion. We can have compassion. We can assess kids in their learning by having them do work, show it to you, and then you send them an email saying, this is what I thought, it was awesome. CC the parents. I use Seesaw. It's a great tool for providing feedback, so kids can post things, parents can see it, I can post comments, kids can post comments. So that's a tool that we use, so I can provide, again, feedback, right? Like, again, people that are
Yes.
obsessed with tests are forgetting that assessment doesn't equal test all the time,
Right.
right? An
Formative
assessment is
assessment.
exactly. And so if a kid gives a presentation and you sit there and take notes and send it to them, they've been assessed, right? Like that's the thing. And I get it. Some of you have your hands tied for like district grading requirements and all of those things. Like that's a bummer. There are ways to get around it if you are creative and want to figure it out. Go for it. I will brainstorm with you if you want. Reach out to me at the Nerdy Teacher on Twitter. I am happy to sit with you, and you can find a super easy grading system so that every kid can get the real feedback that they need, and then some random letter that put in there to make them all feel better. So there are
Feel
ways to
better
do it.
or
It's
feel
just
worse, right? Depending on what it is.
it'll,
Yeah.
if you do it right and you give the kids an opportunity to correct their feedback,
And
correct what
learn.
they've done based on
Hmm.
feedback, and I know learn the learning part of what we do, the kids will be great. It's all about wording, right? Like for the projects the kids my kids build in class, right? So I very much of the design thinking model, where they are designing and they're building prototypes, right? And then they go back after they test it and redo. So for the kids, as I was explaining to this, I spent 15 years as a high school English teacher, in the life before running the makerspace and doing technology. So getting kids to redo an essay is pulling teeth. They don't want to. This is good enough. I don't understand what the big deal is. But if you ask a kid to like redo like a prototype, they go, "Oh yeah, no problem."
Right.
Right? And it's the wording that we're using. So when I explain it to kids, I go, "Well, imagine your essay is a prototype, and you've given it to me, and I've given you feedback, and now you're going to take that prototype and you're going to fix it so it's better, and then it'll either be what I'm looking for, or I'll have to give you more feedback, and then you go and you do the prototype again, and then the kids, they looked at it and they're like, oh, like the light bulb was like, oh, okay, instead of me viewing this as a I'm doing the same assignment over and over and over again, I'm just fixing this, I'm fixing that, I'm learning what the mistake was. Just like as I'm building this mallet, or I'm building this design for a laser cutter, or I'm building this Lego thing, like, oh, I take feedback, I learn from it, and then I do it again. And then if I do it right, I'm done. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually what school's supposed to be. That's what learning in the real world is. When you have a job and your boss says do something and you do it, they go, oh, fix this, fix that. And, to try to bring in these engineers and have them talk to kids and go, oh, yeah, I have literally never done anything the first time and turned it in and it's been good.
Or an author, right? To
Right.
going to
Yeah.
the essay, right? Nobody's ever written that best-selling novel on the
I
first
showed
round.
I showed the students my I have three or four books out, and I showed them the first go over my editor had in one of my books. And I showed the kids, put up on the screen and scrolled through it, and they're just looking at all of the red, like all of the red. And I'm just looking, and they're like, Mr. P, what? And I go, yeah, I just want to let you know, I wrote this. I read it, I reread it again. I gave it to three other people to look at, and they fix things. And now the person that gets paid to do this for a job went through and said, okay, here's all the problems. And I go, and this is literally my job. And I go, instead of thinking, oh my God, Mr. P can't write a book, why should I listen to him teach me about writing? It showed them, oh, wow, if he's actually pretty decent at doing this and I'm learning, holy crap, like, oh, what does mine look like compared to? And I would say, yeah, and for me, writing has always been about progress, not about getting to a certain like grade level. I would tell the kids at the first day of school, I would say, any teacher that tells you they're going to make you an A writer is lying to your face.
Hmm.
I go, that's not what this is about. I go, I'll make you a better writer. And does that mean you go from a C to a C plus? Awesome. I'm proud of you. Good for you. And then next year you go try to go from a C plus to a B, B minus, whatever it is. I go, but what I want you to do is see growth. And the only way you see growth is if you have kids do a lot of something and you save it over time. I have the kids write their first essay, and then I would keep it. I would grade it, keep it, and then I would take their last one, their last essay of the year. I would hand them back their first essay and go, here you go. And they would look at it, and like the looks of embarrassment amongst some of these high school kids that would just be like, I turned this into you. I go, that's what I was thinking when I got on it. I go, oh my God, like they don't, right? You don't see growth over time when you're doing an essay at a time for a lot of kids. They just
Right.
see it's like, I'm not getting any better, or the letter grades are all still like the same ish, and they don't realize what that looks like. But when they hold a September essay and look at a June essay, it blows their mind. And all of
Hmm.
a sudden, there's this sense of accomplishment, like, I did this. Like, oh my goodness, like I'm not a bad writer. I'm not perfect, but oh my goodness, I'm not this person. Ugh, if I was this person, I would freak out. So we want to give kids, whether they were in our seats in front of us or even digitally, that storage, that portfolio. And again, I've been a portfolio person, but now digitally, what else are you going to do? Like, you don't have the manila folder in your classroom anymore. Like, to find tools, whether it's using a Google folder, keep all the pictures and creations and everything that you've done in there, whether it's using something like Seesaw to engage kids that way. There are so many tools out there, but right now, if we want to be able to tell an administrator how your kids are doing, to be able to go to a portfolio and go, well, this is where we started in April when things were super crazy, but look at where they are now at the start of June. And you'll
Yeah.
be able to see, and the kids will be able to see. And we talk about documenting learning, and these are kids that are worried and stressed, and parents are going to be, right now they're stressed, but also they're going to be very judgy, I feel, and soon, in terms of, well, how do we know my kid knows this? Like, what do we know? Like, how are they ready for next year? Like, they're supposed to be a senior next year. They didn't do 2 months of like, to be able to go, well, here, this is what they did on this day, and this is what they did here. And I go, there's growth, and that's what we want to see. And don't worry, we'll take care of your kid's senior year. So, you know, that approach to portfolios, that approach to learning, I think is so important now more than ever.
Right. I couldn't agree with you more, right? And the opportunity to have those artifacts is so much easier in the digital world. And Nick, I want to thank you for being with us here today. There's some great takeaways as I reflect on our conversations. We talked about, digital learning, online learning, the resources out there, putting students first, and really coming from that place of compassion. As you were talking, you talked a lot about what was happening throughout the day, and I noticed within the creativity and flexibility, there was still a sense of structure and consistency, which we know is really important for students, so that there is a time where, like, the Google Hangout or the Zoom session is open, and it might be open for 70 minutes, and the teacher's available for help after that foundational instruction, but it doesn't mean kids are in that space for 70 minutes, but they know who to go to and when, right? So structure and consistency, there's a point person. I really listened carefully as you talked about that check-in in the morning with your advisement class, and there's student voice that's informing what you and your staff and your colleagues are doing to adapt, right? Here's where it's working really well. Here's where, hey, I see the teacher learning. And, actually, as a kid, I'm cool with it too, because I get it, right? That there's going to be a learning curve here. Those are really important points. And um, I'm going to just be honest. I think my favorite part of you is the self-proclaimed nerdy teacher. Because, right, don't we get that?
Yeah, it's a badge of honor. I wear very happily, with the kids, with the consistency. As I had to wrap up my classroom to bring stuff home with me that I would need. One of the things I brought home with me is this mallet. I made this mallet in our makerspace. I was teaching myself how to make certain things. So I made this really cool mallet, and I'm a fidgety person too. I have serious ADHD, so I like to fidget with things. So I carry this around class, and I call it the problem solver. Is what I call it. And so as I started the class, I had this off camera, and I talked. I was like, "You guys, we're going to try to keep things normal. We're going to do everything you can." And then I just started doing this, and the kids just were dying because they're like, "He brought it home. Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." I'm like, "This is the problem solver. We're gonna have problems. I'm gonna need to solve them." But for me, for the kids, that consistency, that's where you're right. And that's that nerdy part of me as well. And encouraging these kids in this class to make things. And I told them, I go, "I promise you, I'm going to be making things too. I'm going to try to make things, and I'm going to show the case them to class, and I'm going to type up the sentences I'm supposed to type up like you guys are supposed to, because I'm in this with you. If I'm home, I'm going to learn to make something. I'm going to build Lego. I'm going to dive into Minecraft. I'm going to create awesome things in Adobe Spark. That's the creation tool we're going to use so kids can create websites, um, static images like collages or video, so that they have access to this tool to create all of those things. And I go, "I'm going to do it." I go, "It would be rude for me to assign all this stuff to you and sit back at home and go, I was playing video games all day. I don't know what those kids are doing." So, to take that nerdiness and to showcase it. And I don't have access to the same tools I had at the makerspace, but I'm gonna find ways to make and create. And for all of you teachers out there, I know you've probably heard it, and maybe you tell your students, but it's important for you to create. We need to be makers. We need to be makers now more than ever. And it's funny. One of the tweets that I see right now is that uh, some people have said, right now, remember when things were at the darkest, you turn to artists for
Yes.
support. And we sometimes don't look at our streaming televisions and think art, right? It's not in us. But if you've ever done any acting or seen acting or whatever, it's the arts. We're watching people do things. Or if you're taking tours of museums right now digital, right,
Hmm.
those are things that we are now turning to institutions that have to fight for every penny to stay open otherwise. And they're still providing performances, some people, digitally at no cost to you. I mean, it's amazing because at our core, I believe as people, we are creators, not consumers. Our first instincts as people crawling out of caves and things like that is to create. Our oldest information on people is through artwork and cave drawings. I mean, we've been storytellers and creators our entire existence. And now is the time to really look at that and go, "What can I create?" For whatever reason, people are baking bread like crazy right now. people are turning into bread makers like you've never seen before. There are email chains asking for people who have yeast at home because all of these stores are out. Like, when we need to, I think we fall back into who we are, and we are creators, we are makers. And I just hope that teachers will remember what this is like, and when we return back to the classroom, to take that and implement it into the classroom through project-based learning, through maker spaces or making, because we're going to see, wow, our kids actually know a lot of the stuff. I was expecting to have to go over all of it and spend like months, but oh, okay, you did all the stuff you were supposed to do.
Right. So
Your kids are
yeah.
resilient.
And well, and they're taking the learning to application and synthesis because they have the freedom to apply it at home, right? Rather than be limited by certain rules that we force to be put in place. And if we're not
Exactly.
taking time doing, summative assessments, and summative assessments sometimes are formative assessments if we
Hmm.
continue to give students the learning opportunity after that. And Nick, you make a really good point about the arts, right? We're looking to music and we're looking to museum and color and beauty and cooking and all of those things. And we're getting back to the core of what's really important, what our real values are. And if, when this is all over, we can remember to stay connected to what was most important right now and to not let this moment in time get the better of us. But to take everything that we're learning right now, what's really important, and continue to keep that at the core of what's most important as we move forward when life returns to a sense of normalcy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nick, you are just a wealth of knowledge and encouragement and inspiration. And, I know I really enjoy following your work. And for everybody else who'd like to get connected to you and stay connected to you, what are the places that they can reach out to you at?
Yeah, you can check out my website, thenerdyteacher.com. For sure, it has access to links to all of my books on maker spaces, project-based learning, the sort of the culture of making. The Maker Mentality is another book of mine out there as well. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Nerdy Teacher. If you're looking for just tons of projects that I'm making and kids have been making in our space, my Instagram is a great resource for looking for projects and really great ideas out there. So definitely check it out. You can find my Facebook page too. I'm also just sharing and posting tons of great resources there. But don't hesitate to reach out to me. I had a teacher just email me today that they were stressing over a Romeo and Juliet going digital and they didn't know what to do. And I was happy just to sit down and work out some problems with them. So I love being able to share and help, and it's probably why I became a teacher.
Exactly. Thank you for your service to our colleagues and to students and for just offering the greatness that you do. I am a fan for sure. And so I encourage all of you out there, connect with the Nerdy Teacher. I love the Nerdy Teacher. Connect with the Nerdy Teacher. You're going to have wonderful conversations with him. You're going to learn a lot and be really inspired. Thank you, Nick. And let's get ready for our next featured speaker.